In this presentation, we will be discussing the ongoing efforts to enhance the resilience of the Coskata-Coatue Wildlife Refuge. This project is a collaboration between the Trustees of Reservations, the Nantucket Conservation Foundation, GCA, and Dodson and Flinker. Our primary objective is to address the significant challenges facing this coastal ecosystem, such as erosion, sea level rise, and habitat loss. We'll begin by examining the long-term coastal processes that shape the refuge, followed by a discussion of the immediate concerns affecting the Hollover and Coskata Pond areas. We'll also outline our next steps for increasing resilience in these vulnerable zones, and central to this effort is the role of natural and nature-based features in mitigating the impacts of extreme coastal processes. The Coskata-Coatue Wildlife Refuge is not only an ecologically valuable site, providing habitat for diverse wildlife species, but also plays a crucial role in flood protection for the town of Nantucket. The Hollover in particular is a critical access point to the entire refuge. Coskata Pond and the Hollover are focal points of this presentation due to their vulnerability and strategic importance. The photos displayed on the slide, sourced from the documentary Coskata-Coatue, A Refuge on the Edge, offer a visual representation of these key areas. Historical data analysis reveals that the refuge's barrier beach system is highly dynamic, shaped by wave action, tidal forces, and sediment transport. Erosion is prevalent along the ocean side, while accretion dominates the bay side, resulting in a westward migration of the beach and peninsula. This highlights the need for informed management strategies to protect the refuge's ecological and physical resources. Sediment transport is a key process here, with strong littoral drift from south to north on the ocean side and north to south along the bay side. Focusing on the Hollover, this area has undergone significant geomorphic changes over the past 140 years. Drone data we've processed illustrate the current topography with warmer colors indicating higher elevations and greenish hues showing low-lying flood-prone areas. These visualizations help to better understand the vulnerability of these features to erosion and inundation. The Hollover's complex system of dunes, marshes, beaches, and tidal floods is especially susceptible to these processes. Historical shoreline retreat data further emphasize the evolving nature of this system. The east side of the Hollover in particular has seen substantial shoreline retreat since the late 19th century, though the rate of retreat slowed after 1950. Wave action, sediment transport, and tidal forces are processes driving these changes and have influenced the long-term behavior of the coastline. Considering historical data and extreme storm scenarios, coastal models have projected changes in dune profiles at the Hollover by 2030 and 2050. These models integrate factors such as sea level rise, wave dynamics, and sediment transport to forecast future conditions. These slides illustrate the erosion and corresponding dune profile changes if no protection measures are implemented. Coskata Pond, a narrow and shallow body of water, is surrounded by marshes and dunes. Its geomorphology results from the complex interactions of tidal processes, wave action, and sediment transport. The drone elevation map provides a clear view of the pond's topography and highlights its susceptibility to erosion and flooding. Over the past 140 years, historical records and aerial imagery reveal significant changes in the coastal landscape around Coskata Pond. These changes include shoreline erosion, dune retreat, and shifts in the surrounding marsh ecosystems. A time lapse between 1998 and 2023 shows the evolution of these features. Again, numerical models predict continued beach profile changes on the northeast side of the Coskata Pond, projecting further erosion by 2030 and 2050 if no interventions are made. Based on NOAA's 2022 high sea level rise projections, Nantucket could experience a sea level increase of 1.2 feet by 2040, 2.4 feet by 2060, 4.4 feet by 2080, and 6.7 feet by 2100. Further data analysis shows the impact of rising sea levels on the refugees trail network. The areas highlighted in red represent sections of trails likely to become inundated regularly. The flooding of these trails will not only restrict public access to the refuge, but also limit visitors' ability to explore and enjoy its natural resources. Beyond the direct impact on trail access, sea level rise poses a significant economic threat to the refuge. Climate change is expected to alter habitat distribution and composition, with salt marshes potentially expanding while upland habitats shrink or become fragmented. These shifts in habitat will have broad ecological implications, including biodiversity loss, disruption of food webs, increased vulnerability to invasive species, and reduced ecosystem resilience. A less diverse, fragmented ecosystem is more susceptible to disturbances such as storms and the ongoing effects of climate change. This underscores the need for long-term adaptive shoreline management to navigate the predicted transformations. In the near term, key issues facing the Coskata-Coatue Wildlife Refuge include flooding and erosion of ocean beaches, which limit beach access and recreational use. Flooding and erosion along the harbor side as well, impacting recreational use and economic activities. Trail access disruptions due to flooding. The potential for breaches at the Hollover and Coskata Pond. An undersized culvert at the Hollover Saltmarsh which exacerbates flooding. Returning to the elevation drone imagery, we can focus on three critical weak points at the Hollover that will help us understand the current ongoing issues at the area. The green areas indicate lower elevations, while warmer colors represent higher ground. The imagery shows that the west side of the Hollover features dunes in the south and marshes to the north, and at point 1 the dune crest has been lowered, likely due to visitor access to the beach. Another low point is located farther north. So, during storm surges, high-energy waves from the harbor side overtop these lower dunes, flooding the main trail as water moves from higher to lower elevations. Photos taken during our field reconnaissance in mid-July show these lower dune crests as well as dried vegetation at the rear side of the dunes. This vegetation damage is due to saltwater penetration, which stagnates in the area and intensifies flooding. This trail, which has been more frequently inundated in recent months, is a critical access route for the northern parts of the refuge. Without timely intervention, the flooding of this vital pathway threatens the refuge's accessibility and integrity. At Coskata Pond, there are two major concerns. The first relates to the narrow barrier beach, which leaves the area highly vulnerable to breaches during storms. High waves overtop the dunes and reach the pond area, increasing the risk of flooding. However, the more significant issue lies on the northern side of the pond, where the dune crests are much lower compared to those farther south. This disparity is likely due to a previously existing trail and the continuous foot traffic along the dune crests, which has gradually lowered their height. As a result, storm surges and high-energy waves from the ocean overtop these lower dunes, allowing salt water to flood the southwest marsh area, which in turn affects the vegetation and marsh ecosystems. Photos taken during the July 2024 field reconnaissance highlight this issue, showing dead vegetation behind the dunes, patches of new vegetation struggling to grow, stagnant water near the marshes, and the narrow width of the Coskata Pond barrier beach. Considering all these challenges, our next steps should include conducting a comprehensive vulnerability assessment, developing adaptation strategies, prioritizing options based on technical feasibility, environmental impacts and costs, and designing a preliminary project plan to address these issues. To enhance the resilience of the hollover, we need to consider various strategies tailored to its specific vulnerabilities. These include improving vehicle and pedestrian access, maintaining the dunes and swells, slowing the rate of shoreline changes, preserving estuarine and marine wetlands, and reducing nearshore wave energy. For Coskata Pond, increasing beach width on the harbor side, better management of visitor traffic, supporting natural dune migration and sediment transport, and enhancing salt marshes, which act as natural sediment traps, are all essential to maintaining the health of the beach and adjacent habitats. Potential preservation approaches can be divided into two main categories: natural and nature-based features, and best management practices. Natural and nature-based solutions include tidal marsh restoration, invasive species management, and erosion stabilization, the creation of swells as sediment traps, and the creation of living shorelines using biologs, shellfish reefs, and fringe marshes. Dune maintenance through seasonal sand fencing and runoff management is also crucial. Best management practices involve controlling vehicle and visitor access, creating seasonal structures to protect sensitive areas, and safeguarding vegetation. By combining natural and nature-based features, we create a multi-layer defense system that strengthens coastal resilience. For example, integrating vegetation with marshes, oyster reefs with sills, and employing dune maintenance with biodegradable materials provides a more robust defense against erosion and sea level rise. A great example of this approach can be seen in the Oyster Reef project at Polpis Harbor on Nantucket, led by the Nantucket Conservation Foundation and Dr. Jennifer Carberg. To better understand the community's perspective on these issues, we conducted a public survey which received excellent feedback. Participants highlighted the regular activities near Coskata Pond and the hollover, including driving on trails, bird watching, hiking, fishing, and swimming. They also expressed a strong belief in the need for protective measures to address erosion and sea level rise at the wildlife refuge. Moreover, most respondents emphasized the importance of living shorelines that use natural materials and vegetation to stabilize coastal areas. They view these nature-based solutions as essential to protecting coastal regions and enhancing long-term resilience. In conclusion, the Coskata-Coatue Wildlife Refuge faces significant challenges from erosion, sea level rise, and habitat loss. Our efforts to address these issues will rely heavily on innovative, nature-based solutions and the continued collaboration of stakeholders, community members, and experts. We encourage you to stay involved, ask questions, and provide your feedback. Thank you for your time and attention. We appreciate your support and interest in protecting this valuable coastal ecosystem. Have a great rest of your day.